In May 2025, the Western Maryland Railway Historical Society announced its annual convention would include attending the August 23rd Iron Horse Ramble on board the Reading, Blue Mountain, and Northern Railroad. Before I thought twice, I purchased tickets. The following are photos and video clips from that excursion. Dad and I arrived at Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania the day before. It had been 34 years since we last visited the former Jersey Central Railroad station. On a Friday afternoon, in perfect late summer weather, the Queen Anne-style structure was bursting at the seams with activity. Cyclists, rafters, pedestrians, and sightseers waited for the evening passenger train to arrive. With the car parked, we unloaded our own bicycles to explore the many shared-use paths which have been built along the Lehigh River. Making our way upstream to the new Nesquehoning Railroad Bridge, completed in 2020, we were able to see the impressive structure that we would cross the following day. The Nesquehoning Bridge at Jim Thorpe Junction was an amazing sight. There aren't many brand new railroad bridges of this size in the Northeast United States. The bridge is a closed-deck, steel girder design, almost 440 feet long, which allows the Reading, Blue Mountain, and Northern Railroad to seamlessly cross from the Nesquehoning branch to the Lehigh line. Riding farther up the D&L Rail Trail, we saw the railroad corridor as it's laid out today and tried to imagine what it looked like when there were two competing railroads here, the CNJ and the Lehigh Valley. Because only one railroad is needed today, the D&L bike trail extends over 50 miles upstream, following the course of the Lehigh River and part of the Reading, Blue Mountain, and Northern Railroad. Saturday morning, we assembled at Nesquehoning to board the train. The regional railroad station, built by the Reading, Blue Mountain, and Northern, sits next to some of the railroad's other facilities. It has parking spaces, a company store gift shop, and a neat and trim overhead canopy for passengers to board and alight the train under cover. This is what we came for, the Reading T1 2102. The 2102 generates a lot of excitement because there are few mainline steam locomotives this size used on excursion trips. It's an impressive engine. With 5,000 horsepower, the 2102 was teed up to pull the 14-car passenger train up the Lehigh River, over Penobscot Mountain, and on to Pittston, Pennsylvania. As the sun rose, passengers chatted with each other, sipped coffee, and made their way on board the train. Our train car was the third in line, car 304. A former Lackawanna Railroad commuter trailer, this car was looking great at 108 years of age. Opening the windows to let the morning breeze in, we were ready to go. At the top of the mountain grade, the train stopped for a short time to add water to the locomotive. When pulling heavy trains, a steam engine can use as much water as it does coal, and water stops can become a frequent necessity. This white tank car is specially dedicated for hauling and storing water for these engines, and the water is pumped from the tank to the tender using a portable generator pump. After the water stop, the train would descend the mountain to Pittston. It seems counterintuitive, but to make sure the train operated smoothly down the mountain, two diesel helpers were added to the head end. These engines would provide extra braking power and minimize the use of the train's air brake system. When the train arrived at Pittston, the passengers alighted at another Reading and Northern Regional Rail station. Built inside a Y and former rail yard, the area around the station was well kept and landscaped. The train was turned around on the Y tracks while passengers traveled to the downtown area via local bus service. During the layover period, we were able to see the helper engines which brought our train down the mountain. According to the Reading and Northern, the railroad operates over 400 miles of rail line with over 200 employees, 70 shippers, 1,200 rail cars, and 50 such locomotives. The 2102 would need water again before leaving on the return trip. After the train was turned, the locomotive was brought to a second water tank car which was stored in the yard. Water was again pumped into the tender using a generator pump. While the engine took on water, the crew kept the locomotive fire warm and ready to make the return trip up the mountain. During this time, we were able to climb into the locomotive cab to see how the engine crew operates the locomotive. Seated on the left side of the cab, the fireman maintains steam pressure by carefully adding coal to the firebox and water to the boiler. Seated on the right side of the cab, the engineer operates the throttle, air brakes, and keeps a watchful eye on the track ahead. Walking around the locomotive at ground level, we saw the huge 70-inch driving wheels, massive side rods, and impressive valve gear. The many mechanical systems of this locomotive were thoroughly cleaned and polished for this trip, and the black paint mirrored the reflections of the onlookers. It was clear this machine is the product of many skilled employees that take pride in their work. In fact, the steam engine wasn't the only thing we noticed that was carefully cleaned and painted, and we were impressed by this D-15 class specialized rail freight container used for critical support services. With the layover nearing its end, the crew brought the 2102 back to the train, and with everyone on board, it was time to depart for the return journey up Penobscot Mountain and through the Lehigh Gorge.